Really interesting little mushroom that's easy to overlook that you will probably see when you're out hunting morels. This is Micacaps, Coprinellus micaceus, small little yellowy orange clusters of mushrooms that are common around rotting stumps and places where you might look for morels. Cottonwood stumps, I was seeing them too. And like I said, these are easy to overlook. These are one of the inky caps, and they have a surprisingly good flavor. There's some mushrooms where you could probably harvest some of these younger ones that are hidden under the logs. You want them as young as possible with the caps unopened, because otherwise they will auto-digest themselves. There's a shaggy mane, if you're not familiar. These are one of the inky caps. Okay, mica caps do not contain coprine. Coprine is a compound that functions like antabuse. This means that if you ingest alcohol after you eat these mushrooms, you can get very sick. So these are totally edible. They do not contain coprine, neither do shaggy manes. Mushrooms to avoid. The one you need to know is not another inky cap, it's Galerina marginata. And as you will see here, so this can grow on rotting elm logs too, but it has a ring on the stem. It's also more firm, and this you absolutely do not want to eat, but this is a very different mushroom. It's not an inky cap at all, so just very brief there. There's other inky caps too, many of them, for example, Coprinopsis variegata, and I would not eat that one either. Some people do, some people are allergic. I'd stay away from that until we know more. Okay, storing and shelf life. Most important thing to know here is that you need to get these absolutely as young as possible, but you also need to cook them as fast as possible. So I have morels in my fridge now that are over 2 weeks old and completely fine to use. These are very different, as you will see. I was going to save half of these, the ones that weren't as perfect, to make soup, and I had a couple things I was cooking, and you'll see what happened to them. So to clean these, I cut them with the scissors in the field, and yeah, you're going to need to clean them if you have any grit on them at all. You can see these caps have opened up. This is after 24 hours in the fridge, and these are going fast. We also want to make sure that we're trimming the stems, but these mushrooms, these are the ones that I was going to save for soup, and very quickly you can see they start to auto-digest themselves. That's called deliquescence or deliquescing, and after 24 hours, they had started to just break down, and I thought they would hold, and I could show you how to do a soup with them, which is very good, but it did not work out. So one of the most important things here for an appealing dish is to make sure that we are trimming the stems from the caps, because the stems are not going to deliquesce into anything, and if they're too long, they'll just kind of look like worms, like irregular shapes on the plate, and it does not please me when there are irregular shapes like that. And you'll see why. I'm gonna do a comparison of sautéing some, which is okay. That's what happens to the mushrooms after I left them for 48 hours in my fridge to make soup. They ended up getting poured onto the wood chips outside. So they will just dissolve into nothing if you don't cook them quickly. And I'll show you how one really good way that you can cook them quickly, which is not sautéing actually. But here's what happens if you just throw some in a pan. These things cook down to absolutely nothing. If we're just putting them over a little bit of high heat, we'll see here in a second. Yeah, just look how tiny. They just cook down to absolutely nothing. But the caps have a good flavor and a cool texture, kind of like fairy rings. Okay, untrimmed, slightly older mica caps. So if you don't trim the stems, and if I tried to cook some that I had left, just look, these just cook down into goo. And that doesn't look very appetizing at all. The other ones, if we have a whole pan full of very young caps, that's great. But not with long stems and older. So one way you can keep a little bit of the color and the texture immediately, cook them into soup right away. So here I have some spring mushrooms. I have half-free morels, mica caps, and then there's another one I forgot to add here. After I'll add some herbs, some ramp leaves, a little cilantro, a little sliced basil. We'll do kind of an Asian style soup here, a little miso, a little soba noodles. There are some pheasant backs. So now we got 4 different types of spring mushrooms. That's always cool. Celebrate the season. Finally, julienne wild parsnip root. That was a fun addition. I ran into some of those. And as you can see here, the mica caps are going to hold their shape and they're going to keep some of their color. So you could just boil some of these in chicken stock right away and they will keep their color, and then they'll keep for days like that, and you can just add those to a soup. Okay, but a simple mica cap sauce is really good. Just look at that rich color. If we just cook them in a pan, we're just going to have like a pile of kind of like black mush. And that can be okay if you have a whole bunch of them. But a little sauce you can toss with pasta, or serve it over a piece of broiled walleye or whitefish would be fantastic. And you're going to want to use more of these mushrooms than you would typically use. I just have a little shallot in the pan there we're cooking. And I add the mica caps, and we cook those down, and we just treat these like any other mushroom. A little pinch of chopped fresh thyme is very good. Cook those down. We'll add a splash of white wine. Now we'll cook that down and reduce that until the pan is nearly dry. Then we'll add some chicken stock. Cook that down until the pan is nearly dry. Then we'll add like 2 tablespoons of cream for 1 serving. You don't need a lot. Just enough to pull that color out so that we can get that black pasty color and get it to look like a nice appealing gray. Appealing gray. But it tastes great. Really, it does. You can toss that with a little pasta. Like I said, you spoon it over your protein of choice. Chicken, fish, pork would be great. It's a little mild for beef, but if you just sauteed a pile of the caps, that would be good. We're going to plate the pasta. This is capellini. This is the perfect noodle to serve with these because the caps are so small. And like I said, the texture is very good on these caps. It's, like I said, kind of like if fairy rings and ink caps had a baby. Twirl the noodles, pour the sauce on top, chives, Parmesan, boom, there you go. That is a fun spring mushroom dish that made from a mushroom that a lot of people overlook. Takeaways here: unopened caps, boil in chicken stock, or cook right away. Keys to success there. Just a quick little ditty on mica caps, a good mushroom that is easy to identify. Full recipe and more is on the link at the top of the video description on my website. Thanks for watching. Happy mushrooming.